Hi, this is Kelly with The Truth in Story, and I am late to the game with this one. There are tons of videos out going over this deck. Everybody eagerly was anticipating it and snagged it as soon as it came up. I, however, was a little bit unsure, and in fact, even after I got it, I was still a little bit unsure. I kind of spent yesterday looking at the images really close and really kind of feeling, do I feel like this is going to add something to my collection? And what is this a deck that I'll pull out and feel like I'll use? I kind of really spent some time sitting with it before doing this video, just so I could kind of get a feel for it. So this is the Green Witch Tarot. Let's just, before I go any further, state the obvious that many other people have stated. The deck is the Green Witch, and the box is all green, as makes sense with the Green Witch. But the book is blue. I've seen so many videos where people have pointed that out, like, why is the book blue when it's the Green Witch? But I'm sure that Green Witches work with all different colors, and you do see the blue on the back, and it makes a nice pop. But it is, I will agree, just in terms of cohesiveness, it is kind of strange because the deck is green, the box is green. You would just assume the same color would be pulled into, and it's the same. And what's interesting is it's the same background, like it's like it's almost as if it's green wood here, and the background imagery is the same, and that sort of wood photo underlay, but it's just blue. So I don't know. I don't know about what the marketers were thinking in terms of that, but you know what? It's generated conversation, and sometimes marketing, that's the big thing. It doesn't really matter what people are talking about as long as they're talking about it. But this is a Llewellyn deck that came out not that long ago. It was, a month or so ago, I would say, that it came out. The writing is by Anne Moira, who is quite well known for her Green Witch books. She has a lot of books. In fact, I want to say there is, yes, other books by Moira, or Anne Moira, and here we have a lot, and many of them seem to focus on Green Witch. So yeah, she is clearly a very well-written, respected person in that sense. So we have her, and we also have, thank you for putting the artist on the front of the box. We have the art by Kiri Ostergaard Leonard. I so apologize, Kiri, if I have slaughtered your name, but her name is on the front of the box, which I appreciate. Let me just say first and foremost that I am not a witch. I don't identify as a witch. I have studied Wicca in the past. I have studied various other things for the sake of knowledge. There are many things that resonate with me about bits and pieces. Somebody has asked me to do a video on sort of what my belief system is. I would consider myself to be an eclectic pagan, I suppose. I'm not sure. I'm not hugely up on the necessity for labels. I definitely would use eclectic because I do pull from various traditions, although I wouldn't consider myself generally a magpie, but I do, because I do take careful consideration into what I incorporate into my understanding of the world, but I would definitely consider myself eclectic. I do resonate quite well with Buddhism, obviously Taoism, some Celtic shamanism, I suppose, in the vein of like the Way of Weird, as well as just that kind of sense of the intermediary between sort of the spirit world or the other world and our world, as well as green witchery in the sense, from my understanding now, again, I'm not coming at this as being a green witch or knowledge, but in general, my understanding of a green witch is that they're very nature-based, very earth-oriented, and most importantly, that they draw a lot on folklore and folk magic of kind of the older cultures or the old religion, as you might call it. Such as like druidic type things and such like that, Gaelic paganism, these types of things that they kind of draw from these old things, which is certainly something that I myself pull from. So I do identify with a lot of their worldview. And so when I saw that the Green Witch Tarot was coming out, I thought, well, that, and I am not opposed to decks that are straight up based on things that maybe I'm not fully on that path, such as, say, the Wildwood Tarot, which is, or the Druidcraft, which is a mix between Druidry and Wicca, which I identify very strongly with the worldview from the Druidcraft, as well as the Wildwood Tarot. So this kind of deck really piqued my attention because I have a great deal of connection with those sort of old religions. So I will put it on the list someday to try to, but again, since I'm not really feeling, I understand the benefit of labels because I think that they help you connect with and identify other people who think similarly to you. At the same time, I think that being too bound by labels can also be problematic. And I think that many people, if not almost all people today, following whatever path they are to some degree eclectic. Because I think we do, if we're open-minded, we are taking from various things. You know, when we hear the truth somewhere, even if it's not maybe in your particular boat or your particular bucket that you have labeled, I think that when you hear truth and truth resonates with you, that's something that you incorporate with you, and it becomes part of your worldview wherever it came from. So I think eclectic probably comes more into play than we might realize. But I was quite interested in this because of what I understand of the Green Witch path is quite, there's a lot that I resonate with there. So that's being said, I can appreciate and I think use quite well something that is really very strongly based in green. I mean, this is the point of this deck. It is the Green Witch Tarot. And so I'm going to set the box. It's a typical Llewellyn box. I don't like them. I do like the books, and I understand the boxes are because of the books. I just feel like there's a different way to do it because, yeah, these are worthless and the only thing I do is throw them away. So there we have that. Now we have our books. Now it is not the beautiful matte that I love when Llewellyn does. It's a very glossy book, but you know, again, for me, generally books, I you know, use a lot at the very beginning, and then I really don't do much with them except for occasionally grab them. I mean, I do always read my guidebooks, but the degree in which I'm returning to them isn't as much, except for in certain ones where there's a very different, the deck is following a very different path. And so, you know, it's not important that it not be, but I do love the matte, the ones that are those beautiful matte feels that sometimes come out rather than these bright glossy ones. Not to mention they work much better on camera. Here we have a beautiful image here. I want to say this is from the Moon card. We'll see when we get through it. So we have obviously the Green Witch Tarot Companion, and we have, I'm not going to go too much into this as I'm sure many other people have. We have a table of contents. We have an introduction, and this is an introduction to the Green Witchcraft, and obviously, and then into the tarot. But it does, you know, this is well worth reading because it talks about the fact that, well, let's just read this first part. The green witchcraft approach to the tarot is based on a personal relationship to nature, earth magic, the elementals, earth, air, fire, water, and the power of the immanent goddess and god in their many aspects, and to the fairies, sprites, and entities of the earth, otherworld, and underworld. The cards draw upon the seasons, sabbats, aspects, fairy lore, herbs, plants, animals, celestial energies, and the bounty of nature. So that kind of sums up, there's a lot that gets pulled into these. So it does really follow the Wheel of the King, or the Wheel of the King. I was just reading the Oak King. It does very much follow the Wheel of the Year. And, kind of pays homage to the triple aspects of the goddess and the god, and the cycles of the god and the goddess, that are quite interesting to me, and really speak to the balance between masculine and feminine energies, which is something that I am quite drawn to as well. It gives a history of tarot, and then it does mention how, the changes that they've made, which we'll see when we actually obviously go through the cards. And also that each card has the main image as well as an animal and a plant that are going to, help contribute to the energy of the meaning of the card. That was also something that quite intrigued me, as I like Tarot of the Old Path has different animals and plants that have important meanings, and so I quite that was another thing about this deck that did intrigue me. And then it gets into reading with tarot, consecrating it, grounding and centering. It definitely gives you sort of the whole process of what you might want to do. And it's definitely from the understanding of witchcraft, doing the grounding, even the way that the consecrating is, it definitely is coming from the viewpoint of green witchery, which is understandable. That's what the deck is. And then we have each image in grayscale on a full page, with then a page and a half or so of notes, as well as an area for writing notes. For the major arcana and for the minor arcana, we have similar. It just doesn't have sort of this wood background, but we have a full grayscale image of the picture with a good page to page and a quarter of information for each of the minor arcanas. We do have in between sort of a basic information about the element that it's following. Let's see what's going on here in the back. We then will have our spread section. We have the Witch's Circle spread, which is a Celtic cross. We have the Elemental Cross, which if you watched my videos, I am quite interested in. I do actually like this doubled cross here, and I will definitely be trying this Elemental Cross spread out. I also like the looks of this Wheel of the Year spread. And so I will also be trying that one out. There's a 9 card, which I love to use, simple yes and no's, and a Tree of Life spread. So there are quite a few good spreads here. And then there's a sort of a conclusion at the end. So the book is about 240 pages before it goes into sort of advertisement. So we'll probably come back to this, but for right now, let's take a look at the cards. So this is Llewellyn. This is typical Llewellyn cardstock. I like Llewellyn cardstock. Look at this guy. I really do. I like to shuffle with it. I like the size of the cards. It's not, it is not self-published cardstock. I mean, when you compare this cardstock to, the Wild Unknown, the Fountain Tarot, these types of decks, even like the Tao Oracle, which is to me almost perfect. But I don't mind Llewellyn cardstock. I really don't. I like to shuffle with it. So typical, basically same size, same cardstock as a typical Llewellyn deck. I enjoy it. It's not fantastic, but I enjoy it. Backings for me are okay. I think that I like the green wood. Truthfully, it could have just been the wood on the background with a maybe just a pentagram centered. I do like the idea of this is sort of a door and we have a wreath hanging on the door, because this is a very homey deck. It is a very deck that, very much a inviting deck. Come inside, you know, sit down and come inside and let's talk things over kind of deck. And so we have that sense of kind of going in. I do feel like the white pentacle in the middle is the only thing I really would say isn't my favorite. It has a very Christmassy look, even though the deck itself, I don't get a very Christmassy vibe from the deck. The back of it does kind of have a Christmassy feel. So I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It certainly is not reversible for people who use physical card reversals. So that's, you know, could play a factor in for some people. For me, that's not a problem. The cards are borderless. So yes, obviously I'm in love with it. I love borderless decks. I think that the title band, you know, normally I'm perfectly happy with like Tarot of the Hidden Realms, where we have the bottom of the card being the title band along the bottom of it. I'm perfectly happy with it, but this is beautiful. I love it. This is very unobtrusive. I think that they kind of did it in terms, it doesn't seem to be, I know there's other decks, there's one other deck that people talk about that has sort of this band on it, or sort of stuck on here, and it covers up important things. From the quick look I've gone through, I really don't see that as being the case with this particular deck. So they seem to maybe have kept that in mind, but I quite like it. I like the font. I like the green, you know, little title splash here. So I really, in terms of how the card is set up, it is perfect. There's nothing that I would change about a full imaged, beautifully simple, but works well, title at the bottom. It's just perfect. There's, you know, nothing I would change about the way the layout of the cards. Now, obviously, this card will bring us to the thing that people also have talked a lot about with this deck, and is sometimes a problem with some people in terms of the green man being the Fool card. So we will take a look at this card. As I said, there is a precedence with that Italian deck, I think it was, that did have the wild man as the Fool, and that sort of idea of bringing spring in, the new beginnings. And that seems to be the concept that Anne Moira has gone with it, and I actually quite like it. So I'm just going to read a little bit of this, because this card is one that people question. So here we have number 0, the Green Man. This card represents the god of nature in his aspect as the Green Man, historically depicted as a leafy male figure with a foliate face. He represents the fertility of spring and the awakening earth, when vegetation begins to sprout, early flowers poke through the When vegetation begins to sprout, early flowers poke through the barren ground, buds appears on trees, and there is hope for the end of the deprivations of the harsh winter. The Green Man has been impersonated since ancient times by men disguised as Jack of the Green, and bushy men covered in leaves, burry men covered in dried burdock flower heads, Morris dancers wearing bells, wild men in hides, fools in tatters, and others in various cultures throughout Europe. So it just speaks to the fact that there's a long lineage of Green Man all across the world. There are these sorts of images that are in many different cultures, in many different times, which I think is amazing. In terms of green witchery and these certain and the pagan sabbats, it relates to the sabbat of Ostara, the spring equinox. So this is when the god's energetic enthusiasm initiates new things, new beginnings, adventures, and growth. So I personally think that this goes very well in the Fool card. And we do actually have the nod to the little white dog here from the original Fool, which I quite like. As I said, there is an animal. I should have just closed that. Let me see. Yes, here. There is, in each card, there is a plant and an animal. And in this card, we have growing next to the bench, mugwort. And mugwort symbolizes fresh starts, fertility, and magic power. And then the white dog signifies support, fertility, and growth. So we have those two animals there. So I personally really like this green man as the Fool. I think that when we're going to go with decks that have a very strong theme, like this has a very strong green witch theme. And so when we are going to go with a deck that does have a strong theme, I think we have to be ready to set aside a lot of the traditional things and just sort of immerse ourselves into the world. So here we have number 1, the witch, and this would be the magician. So instead we have a witch, which makes sense. This is the Green Witch Tarot. And we do have, you know, the standard things we need with even the magician card, just in terms of we have the pentacle, we have the cup, we have the sword, which in this deck is a Thames. And we have the wand obviously in her hand. And the book does a very good job of pointing out all the details. So we have this cingulum that is a ritual belt around her waist of white, red, black, and black cord, which represents the triple goddess. We have the even to the necklace around her of amber and jet, reflecting power being called on. We have her casting the circle with salt. So we have, it really does go into quite a bit of detail about what's going on with this particular card, and I really like that. If this is going to be a deck that is going to take away, or not take away from, if this is going to be a deck that is going to deviate from the normal symbols or the traditional symbols of tarot, then I want to know that, and I want to know what those symbols are so that I can A, learn something, and B, so I can connect with the energies of the card. So I really do like that. We do have that she is putting ginger root into the cauldron. So that's the herb or plant that's going to be in it. And that is for success and swift action. And then we have the crow as the animal representing magic and manifestation. And then he's even watching from a hazelnut tree. So I really do like the inclusion of the animal kind of energy and then the plant energy, because those are the animal energies I've always connected with. The plant energy is something that I am trying to connect more with. So I really appreciate it, and was one of the draws for me on this particular deck. And then it goes on to just give you sort of a basic meaning, kind of in condensed form, as well as a reversed meaning, as well as keywords or prompt words they call it. So taking control of one's personal destiny, skillful and astute would be sort of the key words that they put here. So quite a bit. I'm not going to do that for every card. I just want to kind of give you an idea of what the book is giving us, and the fact that it does give us a lot of information about the symbols found in the cards, so that we can have access to those as we are reading, and I greatly appreciate that. Okay, so then moving on, and I really do, I mean, I tried, trust me, this is the second time I've done this, running through the actual cards, and I wish I could go through them all and point out, you know, the plants and the animals that are involved here. We have a plant here and a black cat, but it just all takes way too long. So I will just say this, that the plants and the animal energy that they have added into these cards, I think is phenomenal. I think that they are not just random. They're plants and animals that work specifically with the cards and enhance the meanings of the cards in a way that I think is fantastic, and is something certainly when I was doing a reading with it, when I would be doing a reading with this deck, I would definitely, until I get comfortable with it, check on that, or else make myself a master list of what these things are, because excuse me, because it really does add to the card. And I you know, Obviously, it just takes too long to go through them all and tell you them. But here we have the Earth Mother, which we can see here even with the wheat, you know, that fertility idea. This would be for the Empress, and we have the ducks that are also having to do with fertility and such, and she's got the cornucopia. She's obviously very pregnant. We even have a little sheaf of wheat on her staff. Here we have the Horn God, obviously to go with the Earth Mother, and as many people have noted, he is quite well built, Horn God. We have ravens overhead for the main animal, as well as this plant at the front, which I can't remember what it is, and I'm not going to look it up because it took too long. But we also see the animals all around him, and he is listening to the voice of the raven here. So we have somebody who's very much a ruler in his realm, and has, you know, rulership over the animals, but you just, despite they're not in his crown, but despite not having the trappings of the emperor, we certainly have the sense of someone who is in control. Here we have the high priest. I would have thought that perhaps this would be a druid, but perhaps there is a high priest aspect, because then I wondered why there wouldn't be a high, oh, there is a high priestess, obviously. So we do need, so that makes sense, you know, since we do have the high priestess and the high priest, they certainly go together. And that may be an aspect in Green Witchery that I'm not aware of. I just had, when I saw the image before, I just had assumed it would be a druid. Here we have the Lady and the Lord for the Lovers card. I quite love this. One of the things that I've really enjoyed about the Druidcraft Tarot is really coming to see, physically see with the cards, the cycle of the Lord and the Lady and this sort of separation and coming together, separation and coming together. And they Anne Moria does talk about that in the guidebook, in a couple of the different cards. I know in the introduction area there was a discussion about that sort of cycle of the god and goddess, and it's something that has quite expanded my knowledge of sort of the way that the seasons and the cycles work, and the masculine and feminine energy, and it's really fascinating, and quite resonates with me. So I love this card. And the dogs here, because you have oh, my brain's gonna die. But she is as the huntress, and he is at the Lord of the Hunt or something like that. It's just completely a brain freeze because I've done this twice. Here we have the battle wagon with the magpie. I quite love this. We don't have the black and the white horses, but we do have the sense of movement. We have, you know, this one kind of looks like he's kind of trying to go off on his own. We even have the traditional wand. This is quite a traditional looking chariot. Love, love, love the crone. Obviously the lion would be the animal, and then we have a plant here on her staff, but I just love that this is a crone. I am extremely in tune with, or have been for a very, very long time. One of the key energies for me is the Maiden, Mother, and Crone energy, and I love that they have this as a crone. I just love that. The Holly King, love. I mean, it's St. Nicholas. It's, you know, I just love this. We even have a little fir tree in his bag for the hermit. We have the reindeer here, and they all, you know, it all fits so well with the hermit. The plant, I just love the plants and animals in this deck. I love it. Here we have the Wheel of the Year. It's another thing I've really been focused on. It's why I love, again, the Druidcraft and the Greenwood, the Wildwood Tarot, because there's a focus on the cycles. I mean, life is all about cycles, and there's no, sense that we can see that in a continual basis in our ongoing lives as with so much as with the Wheel of the Year. And we do have a specific plant that's around here, and they all mean things. Trust me, I've said it. I wish I could say them all, but it just takes too long. I love the standing stone. This was one of the cards that made me so that I wanted. We have the daisies here. We have the spider as the thing. We have the triad up at the top. I have something similar on my ankle. We have the scales, which I love because I'm a Libra. I just think this is a fantastic justice card. And it talks about the standing stones as being boundary markers to sort of the in-between. And it's also about seeing truth. We have that sort of light that's coming down here. I really do love this card. Here we have the Oak King. We had the Holly King and we have the Oak King. People do comment on the fact that he looks like he is just stuck to the tree with Velcro or something. You know, there's nothing. Usually we see something around the ankle tying them to the tree, but this is the Oak King. He really doesn't need probably anything to, and it even shows more sense of, you know, that he's hanging upside down by choice and under his own power, really. And we have this adorable little robin here. So yes, I mean, he's a great hanged man. I love the Lord of Shadows here. This is quite interesting because this is talking about, we're seeing that actual transition from the shadows and then moving into the light. So we have that transition of things that are ending and then the new beginnings that are coming. We have the lunar moth here and we have plant up in here with that is significant. But I do actually, at first I wasn't sure about this card because I just wasn't sure if it, you know, was muting a very powerful card, but I actually don't think it is and quite enjoy it. Here we have the She, which we have for Temperance, which is, I think, wonderful. We have that sense of bringing in the Fae energy that is important in green witchery, oh my goodness, witchery, and is something also that has always been important to me. So we have that for Temperance. For the Devil, we have Nature. And this is quite interesting because the way that I originally saw this card, you can look at this card and you think, you know, is he laying a trap for the bear, or is he tripping the trap so that the bear isn't going to get trapped into it? It's a choice that we have to make. But the book itself definitely puts this as the fact that, you know, he doesn't see the bear who sees what he's doing. He doesn't see sort of the fey creatures or satyrs or whatever they are back there frolicking in the field or the fairy lights. He is so focused on destruction that he is not really seeing what's around him. But you can also again use this as that sense of is that question. It is like, is what you're doing, you know, saving you from being in a destructive situation or destructive mode, or are you causing the destruction maybe? I quite like the Wild Hunt. Again, we have plants here, and we also have the rooster here that has to do with the dawning of the new day after the rubble has cleared. We have the Wild Hunt coming down as the destructive force, which is, I love. In fact, I had just read a book about, sort of a modern book where the Wild Hunt is featured in it. That's quite fascinating. I'll have to see if I can find it. Here we have the Star card, and this is okay to me. I love the scenery. She's all right with the kind of fairy wings. I mean, I like fae things, and the Star always seems to be like a beautiful lady. So I really like the background and stuff more than I like her actual figure, but it's a beautiful card. I love this moon card, and you know that I do not like faces in moons, but I actually find this moon face to be quite serene, and so I don't mind it. And then we have a trout here. I really love this sun card. There's no creepy babies, there's no people at all, and I'm fine with that. And it has the sunflowers, which is in the traditional card, and then we have, I think it was a gold eagle, and so the meanings of those just enhance that idea of happiness and joy, all this great stuff that's going on with the sun card. So I really love this. Then we have a quite interesting card that I am also happy with. Now, I have heard people say that they really didn't, this is being, like that. It's driving me nuts. That he almost this image looks like it's been kind of stretched in the process of putting it, into card format. I don't really know. I mean, I think that he's just a tall, lanky, normal looking guy, which I quite like. That's the fact of this deck that we're going to see more in the minor arcana, is these are just regular people. Like there are, now I will say there is not a, you're not seeing a variety of races, because this obviously is something that seems to be taking place in sort of Celtic Britain area. So they are definitely very white people. So you don't get a variety of races, but you do get a variety of normal looking people, a variety of ages from very young to old, body types, just everybody's not a supermodel in this, and I quite love that. You have little brownies, but this is normally Judgment, and it has been changed to Harvest, and I quite like that, because it, the original kind of has that connotation. You're harvesting souls in a sense. But this sort of strips away the religious connotations, and we have that idea of reaping what you sow. The harvest has come in, and so now we're starting the cycle up again. So we have the new beginnings built into it. I really do think that it is an interesting and a way of looking at the Judgment card, and I think it works quite well. And then the stunning World Tree. I love the World Tree from the Wildwood Tarot, which still probably is my favorite, but this is also a stunning representation of the World Tree. I am a Tree of Life, fanatic. Energy is very strong for me, has been for a very, very long time. I love the snake surrounding the tree, that idea of transformation and shedding of the skin and new skin. We have I can't remember what this was here, if it was a heron, but we have that meant something as well. We also have the tree that is in all the 4 seasons, and I think it's stunning. Yeah, camera probably won't do it justice, but it's a stunning card. So that is the major arcana, and truthfully, there isn't any card in here that I don't like. I think that it all works with what they're trying to do, and both in terms of a new kind of look, lens to look at the tarot through, as well as keeping the traditional meanings accessible. So I quite like that. I think that they've balanced that very well with giving some new looks, new ways of seeing things, but again, keeping those traditional meanings that are important to us as readers accessible, which I think makes it a very workable deck because of that.